The POCO F5 Pro is finally here. After all the hype surrounding POCO's new release, we finally have their newest phone in our hands. POCO is calling the F5 Pro as one of the best devices for gaming and watching movies, especially when you consider the price. After its short time with me the past few days, I'd say that this is mostly true, but there are a few caveats. Hi guys, my name is John Nieves, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the newly launched POCO F5 Pro. Let's start with its gaming cred. It's using a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Plus processor with RAM and storage options starting from 8GB to 256GB, climbing up all the way to 12GB and 512GB. Storage is non-expandable, unfortunately, as you only get a dual SIM slot in the SIM tray. The processor is paired with a fairly nice looking OLED display that has 120Hz refresh rate, HD plus resolution, as well as goodies like Dolby Vision, HDR10+, PWM dimming, and the like. Because of those two things, gaming on the POCO F5 Pro is fairly lag and stutter-free, despite the phone using a year-old flagship processor from Qualcomm. Granted, you're not going to be cranking the details all the way up in games like Tower of Fantasy without getting a significant performance hit, at least compared to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, but for everything else, the phone will be able to perform without any issues. Because POCO added their Liquid Cool Technology 2.0 cooling system to the POCO F5 Pro, and the fact that the phone uses the fixed Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Plus processor means you won't have thermal throttling issues even if you play your games for extended periods of time. There's also a fairly large 5160 mAh battery with fast charging speeds topping out for 67 watts for wired and 30 watts for wireless. The POCO F5 Pro also has a fairly decent set of cameras, at least on paper. There's a 64 megapixel main camera with OIS, there's an 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and there's a 2 megapixel macro camera housed in a module that looks like a telephoto camera. I don't know what that is. There's also a 16 megapixel selfie camera put into the cutout in the display. All right, this actually surprised me. The photos are good from the main camera of the POCO F5 Pro. Surprisingly, it punches above its weight in terms of image quality in bright light, which is something I did not expect from a POCO phone. Image quality takes somewhat of a hit in low light, but that's understandable, but it's still a pretty good camera on its own right. Okay, now I've talked about the good stuff. It's time to move on to the bad stuff. Number one on that list is software. The phone uses Android 13, and there's MIUI 14 layered on top of it. My gripes with MIUI 14 is the same for a bunch of phones now. There's way too much bloatware that gets installed in your phone when you first set it up. I don't think you should be dealing with that if you're paying for how much this phone is. Xiaomi really needs to calm down with all of the software or bloatware installs when you first set up a phone. They really need to take a page out of Samsung's playbook with One UI. Very, very clean user experience when it comes to software, and I really wish that POCO actually went with that route and not with this one, with the POCO F5 Pro. Another thing that I kind of don't like with the POCO F5 Pro is the design. This one, the version that we got, the white version, looks way too safe for me, looks way too by the numbers for me, looks a little bit too boring. I'm not sure if this particular phone will get the vegan leather variant that the Redmi K60 had in China. I wish it did, because right now this thing just looks very, very safe for me. But again, that's a personal preference. You may not agree. You may actually like the white ceramic look of the POCO F5 Pro, and good on you. So there's a lot to like about the phone, but the best part here is the price. In the Philippines, the POCO F5 Pro starts at 26,999 for the basic 8GB 256GB version, which is a good price for a phone that's basically equivalent to a flagship made last year. I won't go as far as call it a flagship killer, but because that thing doesn't exist anymore, but it's more positioned like a budget flagship that you can actually afford, especially considering all of the super expensive flagship phones released so far this year. And that I can definitely get behind. So that's pretty much it for our first look at the POCO F5 Pro. If you're watching this video, the phone should now be on sale in the Philippines. We're going to be including links where you can buy that in your favorite e-commerce stores down below. Now, if you have any additional questions about the POCO F5 Pro as we take it through our review process, please leave it down below. We'll try to answer that once we actually make our full review. And with that, thank you very much. Everybody, stay safe. My name is John, and take care of each other.